Hi, welcome back to my video. This is part 2. In the previous video I went over the audio track for recording and also for where the basic functions and settings are. I explained what a sequencer is, where the mixer is, how to load effects into each individual track, import, export, share, and so on. So in today's video I'll be showing you how to use the drum machine, and I'll be showing you how to use that again to load your sample, chop it up, create presets, load up sound banks, add effects and settings into each individual track for performances. So here we are back at the menu. I'm going to go ahead and select the drum machine. It gives you another menu that displays a bunch of drum kit presets you can select. I'm going to go with hip hop 3, and it'll take us back to the sequencer. Now how we access the drum machine is at the top left hand side you see the blue home menu button, so it'll take us back to the home menu. We pressed on the picture with the drum machine and it'll take us directly there. Now before I get into any details, I'm going to give you an overview of where everything is. On the right hand side this is our standard 16 drum pads. On the right hand side this is our settings for the pads. Now what I like about this drum machine is it gives you a very clear overview layout of where everything is. It tells you what sound banks the pads are in. It also tells you what samples are loaded up into each individual pad. So if I zoom in, you can take a look. It tells you the sound bank and what the sample is in each individual track, or pad, excuse me. At the very top here you see this A button right here. This is your sound bank settings. You can load up to 8 different sound banks at a time. I'm going to go ahead and press that. Right now it's selected as sound bank A. So this is the hip hop drum kit preset I selected earlier. When I play, you should hear it. Okay, so when I select on B, on sound bank B, you shouldn't hear anything because I haven't loaded up a drum kit in here yet. If I zoom in, you can see it says no sample. Okay, so how I load up drum kits is at the bottom there are 2 tabs. One says load bank, one says clear bank. Load lets you load a drum kit, clear lets you delete it. I'm going to go ahead and load up drum and bass 4. Then I'm going to go ahead and load up another drum kit into sound bank C. So I'm going to go with dub reggae 4. What I like about this is you can switch in between sound banks when you're performing. So let's say I have this first pad right here, which is playing a dub reggae sound. I could change it to a drum and bass sound just by the press of a button, and also back to the hip hop. So I think it's very useful. I'm going to go ahead and select back to sound bank A. Okay, at the side here, on the left hand side, there are 6 main setting tabs. The first one is your preset, which lets you load, save a preset, and it lets you access your polyphony settings, which you can set up to 32 voices. Our second one is our sample tab, which lets you load, you can edit, record, you can delete the sample, you can add fade in and fade outs. Our third tab here, this is our mix tab. Allows you to adjust the levels in your volume. You can pan left and right, you can mute the pad. It has a filter you can add into it, and also has audio routing. Our fourth tab here, this is our tune tab. So this is where you can change the pitch of your semitone. You can fine tune it, you can reverse, and also has auto scaling. Our fifth tab here is our trigger tab. It lets you select which mode you want your pads to be triggered in. It also has polyphony, you can set it to 32 voices, attack, decay, sustain, release, and X group, which I'll get into that further on. Our last tab here is our 16 mode tab, which has mute as well. You can reverse as well. It has velocity and tune spread. So first, at our very first tab up here, this is our preset tab. This is currently selected as hip hop 3. You can also use the right and left arrow keys to change the preset. This is load and save preset, and chop, which is the last function at the bottom. This lets you import a sample, you can chop it up and create a preset out of that, which I'll show you in a bit. At the bottom there are left and right arrow keys. This lets you go access further into the settings. Some tabs have it, some don't. For the preset tab it has it. So this is our polyphony. You could select up to 32 voices. I have it selected as default, which is 16. Our second tab, we'll get straight into that. This is our sample tab. So as you can see, this is where you load up the sample, where you can record and edit it and add fade in, fade out. And clear means simply delete it. Quick load just means when you press load, this menu pops up, it lets you find the sample. Quick load just makes life easier for you. There's a tab that pops up on the side instead of a whole menu popping up. Okay, as you can see, next to the sound bank, there's a multi-tab that popped out when I selected onto the sample tab. This applies to when you can edit the individual pad, the multi-tab will pop out. That's because right now, at most, if you don't have that selected, you can only select up to one pad at a time for editing. If I select multi, you could select more than one. You can select as many pads as you like, as you wish. This is very convenient. So for example, I'm going to have one pad selected and I'm going to turn off the multi function. If I want to add fade in and fade out to this one, all the other pads won't have it. Only this individual pad has fade in and fade out. But that's going to take a while. Say you want all your 16 pads to have fade in and fade out, then you have to go do it one by one. But if you use multi, you can select, you just simply select it all and then fade in, fade out. Now all your pads have fade in and fade out. Okay, I'm going to unselect that. Clear is delete. If I don't want the sample, I can go ahead and clear it and load up a different sample that I rather prefer. Our third tab here, this is our mix tab. As you can see, this is our volume. You could adjust the volume levels here. This is our panning. You could adjust the panning levels left and right. This is where you can mute the individual pad. I'll go into the further settings. This is our filter. You have to have activated. You have to select active for your filter to be turned on. This is the cutoff, resonance. You can select a low pass filter or a high pass filter. This is your output settings for audio routing. Right now it's set to main output bus. Our fourth tab is our tune tab, which lets you select the pitch of the semitone. So right now, let's say I have this drum playing, I could change the pitch. And you can also fine tune and reverse the track as well. I'm going to go further into the settings. This is your auto scaler. You can select from 1 bar all the way up to 32. So this is where you can set the scale for that. I'm going to leave it as normal. Our fifth tab here, this is our trigger pad. So this is our trigger tab, excuse me. So right now you can also trigger the polyphony. Right now it's set to mono. You can select up to 32 as well. You can select the mode you want your pad to be in. They had one-shot mode, hold and loop mode, but the auto loop mode is only in version 2.3. I'll get into that. First I'll go into the one-shot mode. This lets you select when you, let me find a good example for you. Okay, this symbol is a good example to use. So when I have one-shot mode selected, when I press it, it plays the sample once. When I change it to hold mode, it won't play the entire sample. It only play however long you hold the pad down. So if I hold it all the way down, then it'll play the entire sample. If I just simply tap on it, it won't play it. Hold and loop lets me hold it down, and if I leave it held down, it'll keep looping the sample in the pad. Alright, the last newest feature, newest mode is the auto loop mode, which lets me when I press it once, it's just going to keep loading over and over again. It's going to, looping over and over again. You can also select the bar you want your loop duration to be in. Right now it's set to 1 bar. You can select it to 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, full, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 32. Okay, this is your attack decay sustain release. Again, you have to have active selected, and this is where you adjust it. So right now it says attack. You could select it using the right and left arrow keys. Attack, decay, sustain, release. I'll go further more into the settings. Okay, X group. This basically means, okay, I gotta turn off the loop. Sorry about that. Okay, X group means when I select a pad, I can select it into a group, which lets me, when I play, for example, when I play this cymbal, it plays the entire track, even when I press a different pad. But if I select it to, let's say, X group 1, I'll select all these sounds to X group 1. When I play this cymbal, when I press a different pad, it automatically ends the sample. So, as you can hear, when I select the sound up here, the cymbal automatically stops. If I don't select it in an X group, the cymbal will continue to play. So this is useful if you want to do like hi-hats and so on. Our last tab is the 16 mode tab. This is where you can mute, reverse, you can select the velocity. And you can also tune it here as well. This is a pad copy, which lets you copy a sample in a pad and paste it onto another one. So if I like the cymbal, I can copy it and paste it into the kick. So now I'll have 2 pads playing the same sound since I copied and pasted it. Okay, for the presets, I'll get into the chop mode. When you select chop, it asks you if you want to record a sample, open a sample, or import from your iPod or iTunes. So I'm going to open a sample that I previously imported. Actually, I'm going to go import from one of my playlists instead. So it's going to say importing. Okay, so this is the audio sample that I just imported. As you can see, it's being displayed on screen in waveform. If you look at the top here, this is the navigation slider, which allows me to navigate throughout the track, just like the one, the sequencer. Underneath the slider is the timeline display. Currently, it's displaying the audio track in seconds, but you can also set it to display in bars or in frames if you prefer. How you could go into those settings is, if you look at the left side of the slider, there's a green button that says SEC. Which, if you haven't guessed this, it means seconds. If I press onto that, it'll say bars, which displays the track in bars. If I press onto it again, it'll say frames, which displays it in frames. I'm going to have it selected as seconds for now. Next to that green button is another green button. This one is the file menu options. This is where you can open up the sample, record it, or save the sample that you currently have. This X right here, this red box with an X in the center of it, this is to discard the sample you have. So if you don't like what you did, you can delete it using this button. On the right side, this is the play button, just to preview what you imported. Don't get it confused with the play button on the top. This is to play whatever's in your sequencer. So we're just going to have a listen of what I imported. I imported an entire song, but I'm just going to play a little portion of it.
When you feel like there's no way out, love is the only way. 그댄 나에게만 잘해줘요. 항상 나에게만 웃어줘요. I said, ooh, 질투하게 하지 마요. Ooh.
Alright, so let's take a look at the bottom of the screen. You'll see 5 tabs here. The first tab is the Edit Mode tab. This gives you a selection of 3 different modes you can pick. The first mode is the chop markers mode, the second mode is the sample mode, and the last mode is the loop markers mode. Right now it's currently selected as the chop markers mode. Next to it is the Navigate tab. This allows you to navigate across your audio region using your fingers, just like in a sequencer. Third tab is the Markers tab. Now this is just like, this only appears when you have the chop markers mode selected. It automatically draws in playheads that slice up the region you select with your finger. So for example, if I want to cut this sample that I imported into 4 different sections, I could do so by tapping with my fingers. So now this audio sample is split up into 4 different sections. This fourth tab here is where you can set your BPM and your time signature. The last tab here is like the Markers tab. It only appears when you have chop markers mode selected. This is auto chop. So whatever region you select in your audio track, it automatically could create slices. It does the work for you. When I select that, it'll ask me how many number of slices I want. You can select up to 122 different slices. So I'm going to create slices. As you see, the region that I selected now has 8 different slices. If you look here, these tool tabs popped up. This is to delete. This is to scroll right and left across your regions. The last one, the last tab down here is zoom. So if you want to zoom in further or zoom out using your fingers. You don't have to use the right and left arrow keys. You can also use your fingers to go around the playheads, but I recommend you use the right and left arrow keys because these playheads are movable, so you can accidentally move the region that you wanted before. Now I'm going to go into sample mode. When I press on sample mode, the difference is now you see a select and a process tab that popped up. The process tab is only in the sample mode. This has everything to do with how you're going to export your sample. You can add fade in, fade out, crossfade, time stretch, pitch shift. These are all the options you can set when you select the process tab. When you have select selected, this allows you to select the region in your entire sample that you loaded. On the side, trim and copy are 2 tabs that popped up that wasn't in the chop markers mode. Trim is when you select the region, it trims everything around the region that you selected. So as you can see, everything in blue will be trimmed away. Copy is, it just copies what you selected into the clipboard. Say I only want the beginning of the song, I'll select that region over there and I'll press trim. It usually takes about 10 seconds for it to trim. Alright, so that was the file, that's the region of the section I selected, and everything else is trimmed away. Now, our third mode is our loop markers mode. The only difference is the last tab. Again, this loop tab down here, it only appears when you select loop markers mode. This gives you 2 playheads that allow you to loop the region that's selected. So now when I select that, you can see there are 2 playheads at the top. I can also adjust the areas of the region I want.
When you feel like there's no way out.
Okay, everything else is the same. I'm going to show you how now to create a preset using the sample I imported. All you need to do is, I'm going to head back to chop markers mode. Say this is the sample, this is the region that I want to create a preset from. I go to auto chop. I'm going to create 16 slices. You can also chop it up using the markers selection and just chop up the regions you like. I'm just kind of lazy. I'm just going to go with the auto chop. And I could play each of the region.
When you feel like there's no way out.
Using the right and left arrow keys.
Love is the
Alright, so now what you do is, when I want to export it, I press that red button. I'm going to go save. It'll ask me if I want to keep my current format or save as an AIFF format. I'm just going to keep the current format. I'll save as, I'll give it a random name. Okay, now it's going to ask me if I want to enable fade in or fade out, or use X groups, create samples from slices, create patterns from slices, and then finally create the preset. I recommend you enable the fade in and fade out because since you're directly slicing up the sample, you can most likely hear some popping sounds or some feedback. So if you enable fade in and fade out, it'll be more smoother when you play it on the drum pad. So all I had to do is create preset. I'm going to go with preset, and it's going to ask you if you want to load. So I'm going to press load. Okay, now it's going kind of all over the place. So how we can avoid that is if you go to X groups. I'm going to have all this in an X group. Alright, so there you go. That's the preset I created using my sample. You could also play around if you want. You could change the mode you want to trigger. You can also loop it.
When you feel like there's no way out. When you feel like there's no way out. When you feel like I said ooh. When you feel like there's no way out. When hands on 나에게만 웃어줘요. hands on 나에게만 웃어줘요. hands on.
Alright, so this is about it. If you have any more questions, again, leave me a comment below. If this video has helped you, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.